I can't believe, I still can't believe that I went through all this stuff in my, oh, we're on? Hello everyone, Bill Apter, down here at Apter's Alley, and reading my own book, Is Wrestling Fixed? I didn't know it was broken, and it's the story of my life. You can get it at any major bookstore, or you can go to Amazon and get it, and soon you'll be able to get it directly from me, autographed, and I'll give you more details probably on our next show, or if you follow me on OneWrestlingVideo.com, which is one of the sponsors beside Blue Chew of this show. I'll have information going on there. But anyway, welcome down to, let me set this up right here. And also on my desk, I've got a copy of the latest issue of Fighting Spirit magazine, one of the few wrestling magazines left. Yeah, really. God, that's so depressing. I mean, back in the days when I was with the company London Publishing that did Pro Wrestling Illustrated and The Wrestler and Inside and Sports Review and Ben Strong and Wrestling Yearbook, Wrestling Annual, and so many. Oh, here's actually a copy of one of them that a friend gave me recently. The days of the wrestling magazines. They're not totally gone. PWI is still around. And look who's on the cover of Fighting Spirit magazine. No, that is not Dean Ambrose. It is Jon Moxley. What an explosion he has made since leaving WWE and going to AEW. Whew, so much going on with the excitement of All Elite Wrestling, possibly going head-to-head with WWE. It's going to be amazing, because the best thing is, and do I have a remote control down here? No, so I'm going to make like this is a remote control. Actually, here's my old flash attachment for my old camera. The best thing that's going to happen is if they go head-to-head. Pardon me for a minute, it's allergy season. Or as my old favorite comedian Jerry Lewis used to do. But anyway, if I'm having a good time, I hope you are too. If AEW goes head-to-head with WWE, your fingers are going to just fry, because you're going to be doing just like the old WCW, WWE Monday Night Wars. You're going to click, 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 click. Oh, although DVRs now could be the answer to that. I'm thrilled that you're back down here in Apter's Alley. There's lots going on. I mentioned Jerry Lewis. And yes, beside wrestling, I do talk about other things on this show once in a while. But now that I mentioned Jerry Lewis, I'm a big lover of comedy. I enjoy comedy very much. So there are many wrestlers who do shows, who do comedy shows, stand-up comedy. My one-man show is not just comedy. It's singing, it's comedy, it's fan interaction, it's contests, if you've ever seen it before. And if you haven't, I will let you know the next time I'm doing that and where you can see it. But when I heard that the Honky Tonk Man was doing a comedy show, I said, he's a very entertaining guy. That could be really could be an entertaining and funny show. But then when I heard that Honky Tonk Man has gotten together with his old tag team partner, and I don't mean old, his former tag team partner, Greg the Hammer Valentine, to do a comedy show, the two of them, I said, Greg Valentine being funny? To me, this is Greg Valentine telling a joke. Can you just imagine him with that kind of deadpan personality? Here's what Greg Valentine joke to me might have been. Well, these two guys were walking down the street, and they ran into Abdullah the Butcher. And one of them said, "Hey, Abby, how you doing?" Abdullah said, "Salam ala bala, whatever he would say. And then Abdullah took out a plastic knife and cut both their foreheads and left them there to bleed to death. Ha, 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 ha." That's to me, that would be the epitome of Greg Valentine being funny. However, I did see them do their comedy act at the New England Wrestling Fan Fest. And thank you, by the way, for all the fans that came out to see me there and get inducted into the New England Championship Wrestling Hall of Fame. Hold on a minute, I got to get the, don't go anywhere. I got to get the plaque. Inducted, 2019. Isn't that cool? So anyway, after the induction ceremony, and thank you J.J. Dillon so much for saying the great things and inducting me that evening. And but anyway, I saw their comedy show. I actually opened up for their comedy show as their opening act, and I wondered why they got together to do a comedy act. So of course I took the APTER CHAT camera, and the following night they did their show, and I did my opening. They did their show at a great club. It's an old mausoleum in Philadelphia called Philamoca, PHILAMOCA.com. Check it out. And I had the opportunity to talk with both Greg Valentine and Honky Tonk Band to see how, why, etc. they put together this comedy tour. And Greg Valentine explains him being funny. Here it is. Let's go right now to the APTER Chat with Honky Tonk Man and Greg the Hammer Valentine. So we're here at Philamoca, and you and Greg Valentine are doing a comedy show. How did you get involved in doing comedy, Honky Tonk?
Well, it's kind of an extension of things. We ride on the highways together for all these years. We sit in the locker room for all these years, and we talk and we tell stories, and it's just evolved that way. Now, I want to give a little bit of a history lesson and not toot our own horn by any means, but when you hear about Mick Foley and different guys going out and doing these things for several years now, Lanny Poffo and myself, we did one of these long before anyone ever thought about it. We did one in St. Louis, Missouri. It had to be 25 years ago, right after we were both out of WWE. And so we were kind of the innovators of the whole thing, if you want to look at it that way. The hard part for doing it was just finding somehow, some avenue to get it off the ground. It's hard to do on your own, to go out and promote it and everything. And Mick's been very fortunate because he's had some people get behind him and help him with it, and he's been very successful. I do it as a way now because I've slowed down tremendously as far as, you know, in-ring activity and things like that, and once you made the Comic-Con circuits and I've done all that, you start to try to transition into something else, and I love doing this because I love performing, and I just like being up on the stage and for 45 minutes or an hour or 2 hours to do this. I did 21 straight shows in England 2 years ago.
Wow.
Is where I really perfected doing it, and I did the shows all by myself. I didn't have someone like you, Bill, to be the opener for us, or anything. I did a 90-minute show, 45 minutes, take a break, come back, 45 more, and I did it by myself. And that kind of showed me that yes, I can do this, and yes, I want to do it.
So a lot of people say you're teaming with Greg Valentine to do this.
Yeah.
People are saying, like, Greg Valentine is funny?
Well, here's the thing about it. It's I've been to some of the venues around the east, up on the East Coast, and last year, and I thought, let's put a new twist to this thing and call it the Rhythm and Blues Reunion, and do it that way, because the Rhythm and Blues thing was so unique, and I thought it was so great, and we just happened to come along and be put together. At the timing wasn't right. I think if the timing had been different, Greg and I as a tag team in WWE would have been extremely successful, but we're out here doing this now, and even with, you know, I call it, it's rhythm and blues, but I call it rhythm, and so I'm rhythm and he's snooze, rhythm and snooze. Because Greg, you know, Greg has this thing about, oh, I'm so slow and I'm so sleepy and I'm so tired. So
wait. He's sitting over there. Is he sleeping?
No,
he's on the phone.
He's actually having to tell his wife that he is with me and not out doing things.
Oh, I gotcha.
He shouldn't be doing. But that's how we put this together, and I think it adds a new little twist. It's where the people, the fans can get stories from both of us. Instead of just me and my story, they get a story from him too.
So where can people find out more about that tour on social media?
The thing right now, Scott Wilder Promotions is the one doing it and putting it all together up this way. I typically post the stuff on where we're going on Twitter. At official HTM. So I do it on Twitter because sometimes I don't have all the venues and all the dates and times, and I just have to post them as I get them. So it's official HTM on Twitter, and that's pretty much where you can find them, or at Scott Wilder Promotions. And I don't know Scott's any of that stuff. I mean, you get kind of ambushed me now. Bill, this is called ambush journalism.
It is.
When you ask me something I don't know.
But that you did really well. You faked it beautifully. So how did... The other night I saw you perform in Rhode Island at the New England Fan Fest, and you were funny. People, as I told you on my old podcast, I said, nobody thinks Greg Valentine is funny.
Yeah, well, they need to come out and see us. He's funny, and I'm funny, and, you know, maybe I'd come out of my shell, but, you know, the wrestling part, I wasn't funny because I was always serious. And except when I had a guitar act like I was playing, that probably looked funny. But yeah, I just bring up old stories and old wrestling stories, you know, and it's new to me, but it's a challenge to me, but it just flows right in, and I'm just really happy to do it. I really like it.
Yeah. So
because every story. And I say this, every story is a story and a bigger story behind that. There's a backstory to every story. But every question on the Q&As, when the fans ask us something, every question leads to a story.
Yes.
And there's always a backstory to the story that you tell. Then there's a story that you can really tell, like, you know, behind the curtains, behind the scenes, and things that the fans would never have known about, or how something came about. You know, I mentioned once about, and a fella said it the other night in the show, he brought up the fact that when we were doing the WrestleMania at Trump Plaza, and it was Jimmy to get the haircut from Brutus the Barber Beefcake, or I was going to get my haircut, but Brutus put me to sleep, and Peggy Sue goes out, and she's to get the bucket of water, bring it in and dump it in my face. That wakes me up so I can run and save Jimmy from Brutus Beefcake. Well, the backstory was someone put large ice cubes in the water. So when she dumped it in my face, the ice cubes almost broke my teeth out. And if you go back and watch it on video, you'll see it, and you'll see I sat right up right away, and I was checking to make sure I still had teeth in my head. Plus, I was saying some unique language. Yes, only privileged to me and a few people around me.
Understood.
But yes, and but see, that's a little backstory to what happened. And the fellow, the whole gist of this was, he said, you know, I went back and I looked at it, and you're right. The ice cubes were in there; they were hitting you right in the face, and you came right up and started checking your teeth. So see,
so I got to ask you about backstory or something. So there's a guy named R.D. Reynolds. He does this great website. It's a comedy website called Wrestle Crap. And I told him I was here with you guys tonight, and he said to me, why did Gorilla Monsoon call Greg Valentine Boxcar?
Boxcar. Oh, because Boxcar, there was a guy named Boxcar Willie.
Country singer,
like
right?
Willie Nelson, right? But he was the Boxcar version. And not that I looked like him. God, I hope not.
I mean, it fit. It was like, I couldn't believe it when the first time I heard it. It was like, there he is, that's old Boxcar out there.
No, I think it was just a little bit of his comedy, Boxcar.
Yes.
Look at Boxcar, or sometimes they call me Roy Orbison, and
I remember that.
Yeah. He was Elvis.
Yeah,
I remember that.
This Boxcar guy was like very, very famous. He was one of the first people, or the first.
I actually met the guy.
He came along like second behind this guy Slim Whitman that did the 1-800 or 1-900 order my video,
made a fortune.
order my little cassette tapes.
Yes.
And these guys made fortunes. But anyway, his name was Boxcar, and Bobby and Gorilla would say that there's look, there's a honky tonk man. Boy, he can really sing, but I don't know about Boxcar over there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, you two, I'm anxious to see you two tonight, and Again, we use Scott Wilder Promotions. You can follow them, and they'll let you know where the Rhythm Blues reunion tour is headed to next. A barrel of laughs, that Greg Valentine, but actually he was funny, and hopefully you will be able to catch their show. Look them up on Scott Wilder Promotions on Facebook and find out where they'll be appearing again. So you saw that The Undertaker made a surprise appearance recently on Monday Night Raw, coming to the rescue of Roman Reigns. So I have, as you can see, I have figures here, and I have some, I have a cage match here, and in this cage is a normal Undertaker figure. By the way, have your tickets ready for coming down here to Apter's Alley. Of course I have this, but what I have, something that's a real collector's item here. You see this Undertaker thing here? This is, I've never opened it. This is Undertaker candy. It's a UPC code here. I don't want to open it because it's a collector's item. And in the front here, I have, let me get this. I have the Rock candy. And nutrition facts. Too small, I can't read it. There's no nutrition. So, Rock candy versus Undertaker candy, who would win? Unbelievable. That's a question that I like to pose to unusual people. So the next time I see someone like Joel Gertner, he is someone who could probably answer who would win a contest, a match between the Candy Undertaker and the Candy Rock. Lots of questions to ask Joel Gertner. And when I was in Rhode Island, I saw Mr. Gertner, the stud muffin, and I said to him, I have several questions that I think people might be entertained by your take on certain topics. And I'd like to bring that down to Apter's Alley. So he said, certainly, Mr. Apter, he's so polite. So right now I want to bring you one segment of several that I taped at the New England Fan Fest with the stud muffin, Joel Gertner. I hope you enjoy this, and next time I see him, I'll get the answer.
Well, well, well. It is I, the lyrical miracle, the sexual, intellectual, the cunning linguist, and the quintessential stud muffin, Joel Gertner, here representing Bill Apter, who was kind enough to share with me a few minutes so that I could share them with you. There's a topic on my mind. It's pizza. Now, people say that pizza is a lot like sex. Even when it isn't great, it's still good, so it's always great. I wouldn't know that direct comparison because sex with me is always great organically anyway. So I will say that I like my pizza the same way I like my women. Hot and moist. And you should too. And you can also by being your own version of a stud muffin and living your best life in my gear with my merch. Visit ProWrestlingTees.com/Joel Gertner. And hey, while you're at it, for motivation, wisdom, and inspiration, listen to my 69-minute eargasm podcast and subscribe to me on YouTube. The name of my channel is the name of me, Joel Gertner. But most importantly, keep watching Bill Apter on the Jarrett Parsons channel.
What inspirational words about the art of pizza from the stud muffin, Joel Gertner. Hey, one of my favorite parts of the APTER Chat is a segment done by the incredible Mac Davis. He's a wrestler, he's a promoter, he's a marketing genius, he does so much stuff, and he's an A1 interviewer. And once in a while, Mac and I go like, we talk a lot during the day on the phone. Whatever happened to this guy? Whatever happened to that guy? Well, in conversation a few weeks ago, I said to him, I wonder whatever happened to, do you remember the outlaw Joel Deaton? Yeah, he wrestled for Jim Crockett, he wrestled in Atlanta, he wrestled all over the place, wrestled in Japan. Whatever happened to the outlaw Joel Deaton? So Mac Davis said, you know what? It's time for a road trip. I'm gonna find him. And he put the key in the ignition, and dang it, he found him. Let's go right now on that road trip with Mac Davis as he finds Joel Deaton. Well, he found him.
Thanks, Bill, and we're on the road again, this time in Warner Robins, Georgia, with a man you may not recognize right away, but I promise you, you have seen his face many times before. Joel Deaton, great to see you.
How you doing, Mike?
Tell me a little bit about how you got into wrestling.
My story is it's a story that starts, in the late '70s, and all the territories days when they were still flourishing and doing well. I came up during that time and through several territories and going up through Crockett, Mid-Atlantic, when it started going, we drove everywhere, driving 3,000-4,000 miles a week and then we went to where we were flying, all over the place and then, in '87 when, my Japan stuff started, I was really blessed to be in WCW and Crockett Land during some of their best years, glory years, they say, or whatever. And then Japan, the same thing. Some of the best years of Baba's All Japan company were in the years that I was in there, getting 3 or 4 tours a year.
Did you go through a lot of training? Because it seemed like you kind of came on fairly quickly.
Well, we trained with Lars probably 6 months or so, and it was 4 times a week. And before he took us down to the West Indies, down in the Virgin Islands, and on into the West Indies on a tour. And we had a guy, Charles Buffon, who was a local Antiguan. And so we went down to Antigua, and they had 3 hours of TV a day at that time and on that island in
Per day?
Antigua. And Lars was able to get our show. He had TV up in Smyrna, out of Smyrna, Georgia, there on Channel 36, and we got our tape on 1 hour on one of the day a week. And he ran his hour show in there once a week for 6 weeks before we came in. So those people had never had anything like that down in Antigua before. But it was.
Yeah, any great stories from your trips down there?
Oh yeah, I mean, well.
Anything you can tell. That's maybe a better way of asking that question.
I just remember that we wrestled there. Like we had wrestled in St. John, St. Thomas, and then when we got down to Antigua, Charles Buffon was, and he looked like you could akin him to Rocky Johnson. He had that build. He was a big muscular guy, and so he was the hometown hero there in Antigua. And so we had wrestled in a match with someone, I think Steve the Kid Collins, and somebody else the prior night, and then and Charles. It was Steve and Charles against me and Hoss Deaton, and we came back the next night, and they had armed guards, you know, at the doors and everything. And so when we were supposed to run in a match and attack Charles during his match, and so when we went to run out to go attack him, the armed guards stepped in front of us.
Oh, wow.
You know, they didn't want us to go out there and harm old Charles, so you know, so we didn't.
Now, did you expect that, or was that a surprise to you?
Oh no, that was a total shoot. That was total, you know, out of the blue. We had no idea. They just knew from the night before we had done, you know, little underhanded stuff, and so they had their eye on us, and they didn't want nobody hurting their.
You're lucky you didn't get shot.
Yeah.
Tell me about some of the other places you've been, because one thing, and I've told you this before, I know that someone had mentioned one time to me that they didn't know who you were, and I was amazed by that, because I've seen your face on so many different matches throughout the time I was growing up that when I saw you, I was like, I know this guy. He's been on TV more times than I can tell you. Tell me where all you have been.
Gosh.
Because it's not just one place. You've been in all the territories everywhere.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to have been in a lot of places, Mac. I like I said, I started with Lars, and we stayed with him a good while, close a year or so, and his sponsorship and funding was kind of running low, so we wanted to get out. We were young, hungry, and green, so we got booked over in Puerto Rico after we left Lars, for a guy named Centron, who was running opposition to Carlos. And we were running 4 nights a week over there, and we had TV, and they were drawing over there. So we stayed in Puerto Rico probably 5 or 6 months, and we came back, and we went and were doing some TVs there in Georgia for Ole, and one of our, I guess, matches we were doing there on TV, Wahoo McDaniel was in there doing some shots, and he saw us wrestle, and he come to us and asked us would we like to come out to San Antonio and work for him. Joe Blanchard, Tully Blanchard's father, it was his promotion, his Southwest Texas Championship Wrestling, and so Hoss and I went out there and worked for Wahoo, and we wrestled as the Anderson brothers, the nephews of Lars and Gene, and dogs there, and so we stayed there and did well in there with Wahoo for you know, in a territory day you would go and stay 6-8 months a year, and then go to another one and another one, and by the time you worked yourself around, you were fresh again if you came back into another.
Which is what they're missing in wrestling these days.
Yeah. Plus, you know, there were great learning experiences being around the old veterans and riding down the roads and listening to them talk, and just being in a position to learn from.
Well, that's where the real education came from, wasn't it? In the car rides with the old vets?
Yes, that was quite a, you know, it was a learning experience on many levels, Mac. Beginning of '86, I think, is when Dusty called me in and gave me the Thunderfoot gimmick.
The loaded boot.
Yeah, and so that moved me up on the card, up in through the middle, and I worked some semi-mains and some main events around the territory as Thunderfoot, but yeah, Thunderfoot, it boosted me up to the upper middle and some semi-mains and main events around the territory,
Let me ask you, I'm just curious, as a wrestler, during the times that you wrestled, whether it be the early days to your latter days, what do you consider did you consider yourself as a mid-card talent, or did you ever consider yourself one particular thing? Because it seemed like, and we talked about this earlier, you were what people may call an enhancement talent kind of team, but at the same time, you were a believable team that could beat the champions, which seems different nowadays. Nowadays, we just see squash matches, and the guys that go in there, the jobbers, which, you know, basically is all they are. They're just local talent meant to be squashed in the ring, and you knew what the outcome of the match would be. Versus when you were in the ring, it was believable that you could win that match.
you get stuck in that rut, and it kind of brainwashes you to thinking, well, this is all I'm good for. You know, I mean, yeah, I love wrestling. I'm going to do, you know, wrestle my matches, and I'm a pretty good wrestler, but I'm not going to go further. I'm not going to,
Right.
and I never gave up on the hope that I could, because I believed I could do better than some of the spots I had. But some of, like in Mid-Atlantic, Charlotte, there was so much great talent in there, and established talent, and you know, that was ahead of me, and I looked at it as that, and I said, you know, that this is part of the steps that's in my career that I have to go through to make it. You know, I'm getting exposure, I'm getting people, yeah, they see me lose or whatever, but they also see there's always a little spark there or something. He don't give up.
Which is probably what I saw when I was watching you, because I always believed that you could win. That was the difference to me in what you could portray on TV and what other guys would portray on TV. I would watch it. I would know where that match was going to go. I'd watch your match with somebody, and I wasn't quite sure where that match would go. And that's what I think draws the viewers in, is not knowing what's going to happen. If you predetermine and you already know where it's going to go, why watch?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, the brakes are on. That was a great interview, and I can't wait, Mac Davis. We all can't wait until you put the key in the ignition and take us on the road one more time on a road trip. They're always spectacular. And if you haven't checked them out, check out episodes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, because some of the road trips are all on those episodes right here on the APTER Chat. So I want to discuss reality. Do you people watch reality TV? You do? You don't? Well, I'm not a big fan of reality, but I have watched the reality show that the Miz and his lovely wife Maryse do, and you know, he started off as a reality star, then he became a wrestler, and now he's back to reality again. Well, in 2012, before the Miz met Maryse, I had the chance to meet Maryse. That reality show could have been mine, right? Probably not. I don't think so. Not a chance. But I want to take you right now to a 2012 interview where I had an interview with Maryse, and that is reality. Hello everyone from OneWrestling.com. This is Bill Apter, the first interview of 2012 right here on OneWrestling.com at Maryland Championship Wrestling. My date for New Year's. Welcome, Maryse. Didn't I tell you about that?
No, you did not.
I never told. She was banging on my door at the hotel all night.
I don't think he's feeling good right now.
But I refused to let her out. So tell us what you're doing currently now. Tell us about the, hi baby, who is this?
That's my little Flaky.
Oh, it's very cute. My dog's going to be jealous. Tell us about the House of Maryse.
Okay, well, House of Maryse is a project of mine that I've been working on for a year and a half now. Basically, House of Maryse will be jewelry lingerie, bikinis, accessories, all those beautiful things that I love to wear on a daily basis. And basically, yeah, it'll be available in 400 stores.
400
across
stores. Now,
the country.
where can people find this online?
houseofmaryse.com, obviously, and worldwide, all over the world. So
Yeah,
that's a good project I'm working on. Very excited about it, and a lot of work, but it's paying off.
Well, it's going to pay off. Now, of course, we have to ask you the question. You left WWE, and people always want to know about the negatives. We're not going to dwell on the negatives. What was the positive about you being in the WWE? And come on in, cameraman.
Well,
we can-
to be honest with you, I don't think there's any negative. I had 6 fantastic years with WWE, and it's the next chapter. And I love to say it's like any TV show. After 6 years, sometimes they get canceled, or you have other projects. There's other stuff you want to work on, and that's exactly where I'm at. It's the next chapter.
All right,
And
all right.
I have other dreams, other stuff I want to work on. So.
Now, what are some of those other dreams?
Well, I'm in LA, so there's a lot of opportunities for me to do other things, and I always love playing characters and talking about characters in LA, which is the place to.
There's a lot of characters in LA, and you're now among them, a special one among them. So, since this is the first New Year's videotape that we've done, would you like to wish our viewers out here at OneWrestling.com a Happy New Year?
And I'll even do that in French.
Oh, come on in. She's going to do this. We've never had any French-speaking beautiful lady do a New Year's. Go ahead.
Funny.
Go ahead.
Alors, j'aimerais souhaiter un joyeux Noël et une bonne année à tous mes fans à travers le monde. Je vous aime et on se reparle bientôt, OK?
That sounds so much nicer than any other language. For OneWrestling.com, this is Bill Apter with the lovely Maryse, and I'll tell you about
I love how you said my name, by the way, Maryse.
Maryse. How do you,
Maryse.
Alouette? Maryse? Alouette?
Maryse.
And your last name is Alouette?
Wallet.
Ouellette. Okay, that is right. This is Bill Apter and Maryse for OneWrestling.com. We will see you as the matches. Ain't she sweet? She really is. She's so sweet, and she treated me so nicely and so soft-spoken. And most wrestlers treat me really nicely. There have been one or two, if you read my book, Is Wrestling Fixed? Come on, let's hear it. Right? I didn't know it was broken. There are some wrestlers I've had problems with, but there's one guy I never thought would just become a maniac on me. And I'm not talking about Bob Backlund, former WWF champion. I'm talking about the man inside of Bob Backlund, the man who comes out once in a while, this crazed human being, Mr. Backlund. Well, several years ago at Legends of the Ring, I was interviewing him and a crowd gathered around us, and it was a nice interview until I asked him if wrestling needs him or does he need wrestling anymore. And then he went crazy. He went crazy on me. You got to see this interview. Let's go back to legendsofthering.com, and I will be there in September. And let's check out this, what started off to be a very soothing interview with classy Bob Backlund and ended up with a maniac. Hello everyone for OneWrestling.com. This is Bill Apter, and we're here at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Monroe, New Jersey at the Legends of the Ring convention, and I'm speaking here with Mr. Backlund. Welcome back to OneWrestling.com. You notice I did say Mr. Backlund.
That's very kind of you, Mr. Apter.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. So the last time I saw you, we were together at the Juggalos, the gathering. Tell us what your experience was being with all those unusual people.
It was a weird event. It was very exciting and very different, and you had to go there. You can't believe what goes on in that crowd of people and the atmosphere and I don't know, it was just very strange for me to be there. I was very, Mr. Backlund's going to go out there and correct a lot of things if he goes out there again.
You need to correct some.
I need to get those people to exacerbate their intelligence.
You don't care for their language or the way they look?
The language was ridiculous. It isn't necessary, and we're going to maybe have to take that.
What about the way their musical tastes?
I didn't hear any music while I was there. A lot of noise.
is, okay. But you would go back there if they considered bringing you back?
No.
You wouldn't. Okay. Now, if I remember correctly, a lot of guys, flew to that event. You still live in Connecticut, and you had a pickup truck, and you drove all the way, how many miles to that event?
It was about 1,000 miles one way.
Wow. And what made you drive instead of fly?
I like driving.
Okay.
I enjoy driving. I stop and meet a lot of people here and there in different towns. And I stopped in Pennsylvania to do a workout with some people and a training session. And I drove the rest of the way. It was I enjoy driving.
So let's find out what he listens to when he's driving, because he obviously doesn't listen to the Insane Clown Posse when you're driving, correct?
No, I don't.
So what music do you listen to?
Bo Bandy and Joe Stampley. Just good old boys is good enough for me.
One of the other things I wanted to talk to you about, I met a very nice young man who approached me asking me for some quotes while I was out in Juggaloville, who mentioned that he's collaborating on a book with you. Would you like to look out there and tell the wrestling fans about this project?
Yeah, we have a book. There's a person that wrote me a letter years ago, and he said, and when he was growing up, his friends had Bobby Orr and Larry Bird as heroes, and I was his, and that's putting somebody in the professional wrestling business pretty high on the totem pole, and I think he's going to write a very interesting book. It's been a lot of fun working with him, and we maybe hope to, in about a year, to have it finished and have it out there in the market, and it's a very exciting time.
Now, I always like to talk to you about this subject. The elections are coming up down the line, and I was wondering if you're considering throwing your hat in the ring in political office again.
Probably not. I did that to do it one time. I had a lot of fun doing it. I met a lot of people, but I probably would never do it again. I really like what's going on in my life. Life is great every day. I can't wait to wake up in the morning. Every day is exciting, and my future is better now than it ever was in the past.
Wow. So, do you need the wrestling business? Or does the wrestling business need you? Why are you staring at me like that? I mean, I know you're here at the convention here, but I was just wondering, there are sometimes I'm not sure whether you still want to be involved in wrestling. Is that true? I see a slight change of mood here from
Mr. Apter. The wrestling business needs Mr. Backlund more than he needs it. Look at the state of the thing. Do you ever watch wrestling?
Yes,
What's going on?
I do. I watch it regularly.
And Mr. Backlund is needed dearly in that business. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
And you believe that?
Sure, yeah.
Then why did you ask the question?
What I want to know is why he puts an N in my last name. I have no idea. It's Apter, not Apter. Is he gone? Okay, well, you never know what to expect from Mr. Bob Backlund. For OneWrestling.com, this is Bill Apter with Bob Backlund, and we'll see you at the matches. Woo. Hello, everyone, for OneWrestling.com. This is Bill Apter.
Did you understand it, young man?
Yes, Mr. Backlund. I got it. I understood.
I don't think you have it. Do you get it?
I understand. I was just going
How long you been around this business?
41 years.
When did you first meet Mr. Backlund?
In Amarillo, Texas, when he first started. Oh, Mr. Backlund. That was Bob Backlund. Mr. Backlund I met in the late 70s, early 80s. I'm feeling kind of intimidated at the moment.
You should be.
I was just getting set to interview these two beautiful ladies. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the people watching here at OneWrestling.com?
No, I'm talking to you.
Okay. You're talking to me. Okay. I'm not going to go, you talking to me. I'm not going to say that, but what is your problem here?
I'm trying to figure out what's going on in your head.
Well, there's lots of things going on in my head. I'm here at...
Well, they're the wrong things.
Ladies, come on back. I assume neither of you two are going to be screaming at me?
I didn't say it was done yet. It's never over.
I'm not
It's
to...
never over.
I'm not to
It's
sniff.
never over. Not yet anyway, ladies and gentlemen.
I really think Mr. Backlund has some issues going. You can applaud if you'd like to.
I don't think you think.
I think we're going to have to, ladies, we're going to have to do...
You don't think.
Oh my goodness! Even months later, when I saw him and I tried to approach him, he didn't want any part of me. So I've got to somehow make amends with Bob Backlund. I have some other interviews that I'll run on some other APTER chats that you will see down here at Apter's Alley that will kind of, yeah, real loco, let's say. I want to thank all of you coming down to Apter's Alley again. I want to thank, don't forget to follow me at Apter One Wrestling. That's the number one, like OneWrestling.com and One Wrestling Video. And there's no N in my last name. People still call me Apner because the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes called me Willie Apner. Follow me at Apter One Wrestling. Thank you so much, Mac Davis, for another incredible road trip. Thank you to all you fans who have gotten my book, Is Wrestling Fixed? Come on, let's hear it again. I didn't know it was broken. This is Bill Apter, and thank you for being fans of mine. I really, really appreciate it. And the only thing I can say, besides I love you, is I'll see you at the matches.